I am extremely concerned that our country has to be sued to take care of its most vulnerable.
And now they've weaponized HUD, are starting to say you won't get funding if your community doesn't actively enforce these laws, which is the Cicero playbook.
Shalom. First, I start off by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakatash. Double honors to teachers, elders, and the boss of great millstone, likewise, brothers who know this truth. Faithfully, fearlessly feeding the sheep and two brothers and sisters doing in Shalom. Today's lesson is titled Troubling Times in Sodom and Egypt. And if you don't know what Sodom and Egypt is, you know the story of Sodom, the place that was destroyed by the Lord Yahushai for, basically practicing sodomy or faggotry. Okay, and you had Egypt, which we were delivered from Egypt or the hands of Pharaoh. Okay, and this place, known as America to the world, is called spiritual Sodom and Egypt because it practices sodomy. Okay, its kings, its rulers are all sodomites, and this is a place where you will work to death and have nothing to show for it. Okay, which Egypt symbolizes slavery. Okay, let's go into the book of Psalms 10 and start with 7 before I show you the rest of the clip and other clips that I have. Okay, going into these troubled times that we're in. And it reads, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privy set against the poor. And what you're going to see with the rest of this clip is what we've been always talking about, that they're not going to help Jakes, okay, so-called blacks and Americans and Latinos. And they're not even going to help, okay, the Edomites, okay. They're going to put people in internment camps, okay, and you've seen these laws and legislations that's being passed by the current administration, okay, to make homelessness illegal, okay, a crime, okay, and they are the ones that create the problems, bringing down the economy, okay, causing these companies to lay off people by the tens of thousands, okay, and recently you see the debacle with the close down of the government where they cut off, substances to the people, SNAP benefits, health benefits, all those things. And it's creating a crisis of desperation here in Great Babylon, America. And what they're going to do is they're going to criminalize you for being poor. Continuing, it says, he lied in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lied in wait to catch the poor. He don't catch the poor when he draweth him in his net. And because of the dependency of this man, okay, Esau the Edomite, so-called white man who right now currently rules the earth in utter wickedness, okay, people have no choice, okay, if they're not embedded in the spirit, okay, to serve Yahweh Shai, but to turn to this man. Take a look at the rest of this video.
I am extremely concerned that our country has to be sued to take care of its most vulnerable.
And now they've weaponized HUD, are starting to say you won't get funding if your community doesn't actively enforce these laws, which is the Cicero playbook.
You know what? I thought Ben Carson was bad, and now...
At the hearing, the Department of Justice attorney who showed up waived argument, wouldn't even contest. They are just trying to sneak things through and hope that they don't get challenged because everybody's too busy. They passed a plan for a 1,300 person megatent camp 7 miles outside of downtown in the middle of nowhere, no public transportation, no voluntary entry or exit. They say some of these units are going to be work conditioned housing, which to me means forced labor. It still feels hyperbolic to say Trump is planning to put people into internment camps, even though he ran literally on that platform and said it outright. That's exactly what he means.
When do people wake up?
We need to behave as if there are going to be internment camps for people who just can't pay the rent, because if we don't stand up and fight it, there will be.
I know this sounds like James Bond villain shit, but it's real. They're not calling them camps, they're calling them solutions. Across the country, state leaders are pushing plans to round up homeless people into massive tent cities, some with locked doors, guards, and even forced labor. In this episode, Eric Tars from the National Homelessness Law Center joins me to break down how we got here. From billionaires funding anti-homeless laws, to HUD being weaponized, to federal policy that punishes people for simply being poor. I know it sounds extreme, but it's already happening. So was it a year?
Now you saw in that video what they talk about. Okay, this is real. This is what's going on here in Great Babylon, America. And this is why Jacob's trouble is going to be so tough. Okay, you're going to have men becoming almost like women. In fact, let's go to Jeremiah 30 and start at verse 6 before I show you another clip that's going to emphasize what this scripture is talking about, because you're going to see how people, okay, who have been conditioning or been conditioned to meeting the standards of Great Babylon America don't have answers when they are in a crisis. It says, ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Let's take a look at the word travail before we move any further. And it means engage in painful or laborious effort, okay? And that could be in the mind, and that also is a physical effort, okay? As you struggle here, you struggle to make it, you struggle to try to make ends meet, you struggle to try to better yourself, you struggle to try to meet the standard that has been set for you to achieve, okay? Which for some of us, or most of us, it cannot be achieved, especially for the children of Israel. It says, wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness, okay? Hopelessness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Now, who's going to be saved out of it? The believers are going to be saved out of it. But the rest of the people, okay, they're going to be trapped mentally in this place. Here's an example of what this looked like in this current state right now. Imagine what it's going to look like, okay, when all hell breaks loose. Take a look at this.
I lost my home today. I genuinely don't know what to do for my family. I spent years building plans, stocking food, building skill sets, and prepping for every kind of disaster. But sometimes life just kicks you in the teeth. I received a certified letter this morning saying that my home was sold at tax sale on September 11th. Had no idea I was behind until I got that certified letter. And based on what the lawyer told me, we can't afford to get it back. My family's facing the very nightmare that I tell you guys to prepare for every day. I wanted you to hear this because preparing isn't just storing food, bug out bags, or gear. It's about resilience when everything falls apart, especially in your own life. I'm not telling you this because I want your sympathy. I'm telling you this because real survival is raw, ugly, and real. No one is untouchable. If you think it can't happen to you, you really need to think again. If you're not prepared, one bad break could change your life overnight. Even the most prepared can fall. What matters is how we pick ourselves back up, but I'm pretty sure this one's going to take me a while to get back. Never occurred to me when I bought this van that a year later I'd end up living in it.
And as you saw in that video, okay, he's talking about what is he going to do. So he had planned all these things, you know, stocking up food, stocking up all this other stuff, and just out of the blue, a tax that he hadn't paid, you know, for over a decade, caught up with him with a lot of interest, and now they took his home because he cannot pay, okay, that debt that he owes. And just like that, his life went from all that plan and all of that, this is what I'm going to do, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, to suddenly now, okay, he's living in a van and he has no answers for his family. And this is why it's important that you don't dwell mentally in this world, okay, and understand that really your guidance should come from the Lord. Let's go to the book of Matthew 6 and start verse 28. This is from the Mashiach himself. In all red letter says, and why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Wherefore, if power so clothe the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? So we should have faith, okay, not worrying about the fact that, you know, the adversary Esau is going to make things so difficult that you're not going to be able to sustain your life here in Great Babylon, America. Okay, you know, you're gonna lose things, your car, okay, your house, okay, your apartment, whatever it is that makes your life comfortable. Okay, this man is building a system in which you are solely dependent on him. Okay, it says, therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewithal shall we be clothed? Because as a part of the hopefully elect, we are going to have to give up things, okay, just like that, because of the fact that there's going to be a requirement, okay, from this man when he is offering help, such as the MOTB, which we know taking that means certain debt, okay? So we're going to have to give up things and say, okay, I have to, you know, the term that's used in the world is go off grid, so to speak, okay? Now, if you have the ability to have a lot of things to take off grid with you might have that ability to do that. You might have to, of course, you're going to have to share that with other brothers or sisters that don't have it. You know, there's going to be a whole underground trading and things that's going to be going on. Okay, but many will not even have anything to take. When you go off grid, you might just have to close in your back and a bottle of water. That's it. Okay, and this is where that fate that Yahweh Shemashah is going to feed you, clothe you, and protect you is going to kick in. So we can make lessons all day right now, go out in the highway and the byway, scream and shout, talk about what we gonna do, finna do, and all that. When that time comes, we're gonna see, okay? If we actually built for that, for real. It says, for after all these things do the Gentiles seek, for your heavenly Father knoweth what ye need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of power and its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So that's what we're supposed to do, okay? So in the times right now where people are still trying to recapture their old glory days and have fun and do all these things like that, okay, it's not to say that we don't do things, eat dinner or go to a movie or whatever the case is like that. But they're still looking to recapture the glory days of Great Babylon, America, when things was great. And so they prime their ear to listen to every word that's coming out of the oppressor's mouth. Okay? We, on the other hand, okay, our mind and our body is given over to Yahweh Shemashah to do this work. Okay, and to serve him, no matter what the cost is going to be. It says, take therefore a new thought for tomorrow. For tomorrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Okay, so this is the fate that we have. Okay, now you see that the video I showed you. Okay, the guy, he's spazzing out, and that's what's going to be, the mindset of everybody. This is why you're going to see how men are going to, their hands is going to be in their loins as a woman in travail, because they're going to feel worthless, like they're not a man and all the other stuff. And that because they don't understand. There is nothing you can do. This is a judgment from the Lord Yahweh Shemashah coming on this wicked kingdom. And he's simply using Esau, okay, who is in a position of power, to execute those judgments. It's just that simple. There's nothing you can do about it. But if you care what the world think about you and, feeling worthless and not understanding that this is a good thing, that's going to be taking place, especially if you're not part of the world, okay, then you're going to be, piercing yourself with unnecessary trouble. Let's go to 2 Ezra 16 and start with 71, okay? Because these two verses I'm going to read, you could actually make a movie out of this. If you have a good imagination and a budget, you actually can. Okay? You can make a movie out of it. It says, they should be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. Salaki, let me start from verse 70. It says, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. So that's eviction notices, SNAP benefits end, they're going to kick you out. It's not your house. Okay, you can't pay the mortgage, you're out of your house. You can't pay rent, you're out of your house. Okay, you can't pay the taxes, you're out of your house. Oh, you're an illegal immigrant. You can't prove yourself to be a citizen. You're out of the house. Okay. Oh, we need to confiscate your house because we need to use it for military purposes and all that stuff. You're out of your house. And so you can go on and on and on and on and on. And unlike us who were born into poverty, whether you have, roof over your head or not, we are poor. We are considered poor, the poor. Okay. The scriptures describe the Hebrew Israelite as poor. Okay. Now mind Jay-Z and Beyonce and those, they're still poor. They just happen to get their they got their compensation on this side. So in the kingdom, they're going to be very low. Okay, they're going to be in a very low state. You still have this man, okay, setting up laws and legislation in his centuries all across Great Babylon, America, to do what? To oppress the poor. Now you're looking at this. Let's show you this video here, because you see in this video the background here with this woman, okay, and I put the caption there that you haughty young Eve out there that think you know what time it is, okay, you might want to consider yourself as this being your future, okay. This is going to be your future here, okay, and much, much, much worse, okay. She's right now in a time homeless, when people actually have the ability to give and help if they so choose to. And you will see she walks the streets, and and this look like a middle-aged woman, probably in her 50s, maybe in her 60s. Jake Eves, they look younger than they really are. Or she could even be in her 70s. But every day she has to go there and beg, okay? And you see people, they turn their head. Nobody wants to help, okay? Nobody wants to give, nobody cares, especially a so-called black person, okay? Or so-called Hebrew Israelite, so-called Hebrew Negro or African American, the dark-skinned versions of the Jakes are definitely not going to be helped, okay? Let's close out with 1 Timothy 7, start with verse 7. This is 1 Timothy 6, start with verse 7. Okay, and you have to have this, okay? And you see the people, they ride around with their carts in their hand, their shopping carts, or with their belongings in it on the streets, and sleep on a cardboard box under a bridge. Okay, that's their possession. And it's easy to pray and be all holy, when you have your belly full every night and a soft bed to sleep on, and you get accolades from Aquads and Akiam and all that stuff like that. But keep in mind that we may have to walk away from it, or it is going to be forcibly taken away from us. Okay, and this is part of the walk that we in as being the sons and daughters of Yahweh Shema Shai says, for we have brought nothing into this world, and it's certain we can carry nothing out of it. Okay, you can't carry anything into the spirit world. It says, and having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. Okay, food. That's one of the most important thing, man. Food. I know it's very important to me. Okay, and in my household, food is a very important thing. Okay, so for food. It says, but they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. So who do you think is going to have a harder time to deal with 2nd Ezra 16, starting verse 70 in these different cities? And when they're changing the laws and saying, screw you, we don't need you no more. It's one of the brothers went out the fact that they're bringing robots now to entertain people and do all this other stuff. So no, these rappers are not going to be any use to Esau anymore, because they got AI that can actually rap now and all this other stuff. So, when they come after Jakes, okay, no matter what position you're in, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, all that stuff like that, they're going to fall into that snare. They're going to do whatever it takes to keep that status or be Esau's little pet, and I'm using them because they're more famous, but it's also going to be other Jakes who are rich but not famous, or who are very well off but not famous, okay? And even just the average Jake that has a little something, that managed to have a little something throughout the tribulation, they can be hanging on to that, man. That's why so many of our people are going to run and grab the MOTB, the mark of the beast. They're going to take it. They can do whatever it takes to sustain themselves here in Sodom and Egypt. It says, and having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. They're not content with just food, but they that be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some covet after, they have erred from the faith and pierced himself through with many arrows. We don't want to be like the guy in the video that lost his house, and all he's thinking about. One time that he mentioned about, can the Lord get me out of this? They're not thinking that way. These people who have money and the people in the world, they're not going to be thinking about that. And this is why, if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. Okay. And let me bring out something here, if I could find it here. okay, where it talks about if riches increase, okay, and I'll bring it out here. It says, trust not, this is Psalm 62, and 10 it says, trust not in oppression, don't trust in Esau's system, and become not vain in robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart upon them. It's okay to have money, pay your bills and all that stuff, but don't just think, just one day, you know, 2nd Ezra 16 is going to come into play, okay? And, you know, you can be as pilgrims on this, in Great Babylon, America, you know, Lord willing, we get beamed up in that chariot and get to watch the destruction of our enemy, okay? So this has been troubling times in Sodom and Egypt. Lord willing, the elect was edified. Let goes by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Shalom.